guys, and welcome to Tutes Online. Today we're going to be looking over the abdominal walls. Let's start off with the muscles. Okay, the first one we'll have a look at is the external oblique. This is muscle laterally and aponeurosis medially. And it has a waistcoat pocket orientation. So here's posterior, here's anterior, and the fibers are going from posterior to anterior. The lower border of the aponeurosis is thickened and rolls inward, and this forms the inguinal ligament. The inguinal ligament extends from the anterior superior iliac spine of the ilium to the pubic tubercle of the pubis. We have something called the lacunar ligament, which is attaching the inguinal ligament to pecten pubis. Okay, next we'll do the internal oblique. And this is muscle laterally and aponeurosis medially. This muscle is fan-shaped. So the fibers are extending from all directions. And it connects costal margin lumbar fascia iliac crest and the linea alba. Moving on to transversus abdominis. This is muscle laterally and aponeurosis anteriorly. The fibers go in a horizontal direction. And it is attached to the internal surfaces of lower costal margins, 7 to 12, the lumbar fascia, iliac crest, and linea alba. Rectus abdominis. Fibers are running vertically, and there are tendinous intersections. And these are at the level of the umbilicus, at the level of the xiphoid process, and halfway between the two. It is attached to the xiphoid process and costal cartilages 5 to 7, and the pubic crest. The role of these muscles is to support the abdominal contents. They also help with expiration and expulsion of feces. Okay, let's move on to the rectus sheath. And I think we can explain this by drawing a diagram. So up here we'll have the anterior, and down here we'll have the posterior. So anteriorly, we have the aponeurosis of the external oblique and part of the aponeurosis of the internal oblique. Draw muscles here. We've got our aponeurosis of external oblique and part of the aponeurosis of internal oblique. Posteriorly, we have the aponeurosis of the internal oblique again, and the aponeurosis of transversus abdominis. So here's the aponeurosis of transverse abdominis, and here's the aponeurosis of internal oblique. These coalesce in the center, fuse in the midline between the two rectus muscles, to form the linea alba. On the lateral edges, we have linea semilunaris. So just to summarize, we have external oblique, internal oblique, and transversus abdominis. Here we have rectus abdominis. We've got the aponeurosis of external oblique coming in, and part of the aponeurosis of the internal oblique coming in to form the anterior portion of the rectus sheath. Then posteriorly, we have the aponeurosis of transversus abdominis coming into the center, and part of the aponeurosis of internal oblique, forming the linea alba. And then we have aponeurosis of rectus abdominis laterally, forming the linea semilunaris. So this is the linea alba, this is the rectus sheath, and linea semilunaris is here. I'll just show that from the front. So that was a transverse section of the rectus sheath. Now I'll draw an anterior view. Here is the linea alba. You have those tendinous intersections of the rectus muscle. And on the side here and here, that's the linea semilunaris. Let's move on and look at the inguinal canal. And this is a passage through the aponeurosis and muscle of the lower abdominal wall. And it carries the splenic cord in males and the round ligament in females. Here is your pubic symphysis here, and your pubic tubercles here. So you've got your anterior superior iliac spine on the ilium, and your pubic tubercles. And this is your inguinal ligament. The inguinal canal extends from the superficial inguinal ring, which is superior and lateral to the pubic tubercles, here, to the deep inguinal ring, which is 1 centimeter above the mid-inguinal point between anterior superior iliac spine and the pubic tubercle. So your inguinal canal is from here to here. The mid-inguinal point is the point at which you can find the femoral pulse. And we'll quickly do some surface anatomy. So, of course, you have your six-pack, which is a surface landmark for those tendinous intersections of the rectus abdominis. Then you have something called the transpyloric plane. And this is halfway between the xiphosternal joint and the umbilicus. You can also find it halfway between the jugular notch and the superior edge of the pubic symphysis. And the transpyloric plane marks the level of the pyloric sphincter in the body. Let's move on to the posterior abdominal wall. We have Quadratus Lumborum, and it is attached to rib 12, bodies of lumbar vertebra 1 to 4, and the iliac crest. You can find it underneath the lateral arcuate ligament. And it does a number of things. For breathing, it stabilizes the rib cage. When one muscle is acting by itself, it flexes the spine. And when they both act together, they extend the lower back. Then we have psoas minor, and this is present in 60% of people. Even though it is present in 60% of people, it's pretty undeveloped, so it's difficult to see. And because of this, it is a weak trunk flexor. Then we have psoas major, and this combines with another muscle called iliacus to form a muscle called iliopsoas in the thigh. And what this muscle does is it flexes the thigh on the pelvis, or bends the trunk and pelvis forward, against resistance, i.e. standing up. Psoas minor and psoas major are found underneath the medial arcuate ligaments. And that about wraps it up for the abdominal walls. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you come back and learn more about the human body. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.